We are back another day to discuss an important distinction that we have developed over the years in lighting historical buildings. We call it the world of illusion versus the world of allusion. The distinction is that do we wish to create a lighting design response that alludes to the architecture, or willfully create illusions that are then superimposed onto a willing architecture. So to elaborate on the point, the world of allusion understands the historic nature of the building, the materials. There's a concept to it, in terms of how is it that you want the building to be seen at night, because it has historic significance in the local culture and in the local context. Conversely, the opposite of that is creating illusions, which is projection mapping, colored lights, moving projections, not just mapping. Of course, all of that is possible in this day and age with the technology essentially driven by LEDs. So the choice that is made, whether we allude to the architecture or create illusions, then becomes a mirror to the culture and context of the site. There are certain projects where use projection mapping and technology because there wasn't much to light. However, there are certain beautiful projects, like you can see the Smile building that we have done in Mumbai, where we picked up the details, and the churches that we've done here in New York, historic chapels, the Golden Temple, where we're alluding to the architecture. We're not creating an illusion. My famous anecdote in 2010 when we were doing the Golden Temple was that somebody else came and said, let's create a theatrical set, and create these illusions of how, mystical this place is. And in round one of our conversations, I referred to this conversation as well. Really, the project is not about creating illusions, but alluding to the magnificence of the material that's used, the details that are used. So in talking about the world of illusion versus allusion, I want to illustrate some more points utilizing two of my projects. One is the Church of Assumption here in New York, New Jersey. And the other is the Zara Ismail building in Mumbai. These both required us alluding to the amazingness of the architecture. The details were all there. The point was that why would I take these beautiful details and embellish them with color or special effects? The architecture was giving us that. So there are certain places where we have to hold ourselves back and really examine it from what is appropriate for the occasion and for the architecture. We have had moments where we have actually spoken the client out of doing color changing on beautiful buildings because there was no requirement, there was no need for it. The building itself was so beautiful. And in that, we live in the world of allusion. Both the church and the Zara building had amazing details. So what we were doing was, in alluding to the architecture, we were picking up the details, almost like a fine artist who's just painting light onto the building. But that would put the building too much in silhouette. So then you have to kind of give it some sort of a fill, some sort of a, the phrase is the umbra penumbra of light, and shadows. Essentially, the shadows have to be managed, but silhouettes have to be managed as well. So it's poetry that's kind of cast with light in time and not really relying on color changing. Then we move to the world of illusion. We have done a few projects, quite a few projects, including Peak Tower in Hong Kong and the solarium in Croatia. These are illusions. We've done many malls, etc., where we have created illusions again. There are illusions that we are creating for selfie moments. That's the world we live in. And sometimes the architecture becomes subservient to the requirement of visual excitement. The downside of doing that ad nauseum, or doing it on every project, is these kind of lighting moves are what I call flash trash. That it's not really something that I would want to see, 6 months later, 3 months, maybe even 1 month later, I'll be bored of it, because what we were doing was just an applique of pigmentation onto a willing architecture, but there was no analysis. There was no deeper content. There was no deeper messaging. It was just, let's make it pink and blue, or let's make it, what do they do for Valentine's? Make it red. Let's make it red, white, and blue on the 4th of July, and so on and so forth. The content is not more than that. And that is where sometimes the world of illusion would fail. Sometimes it's, for a certain amount of time can be a success, especially if you're trying to sell more clothes, or get more footfalls in a mall or in an amusement park. There it works. So the question at hand, as lighting designers and practitioners, is where do we allude to the architecture or make illusions? Every historic building begets that question. On that note, thank you for listening, and till the next one, we'll see you soon.